and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
The future of the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, hangs in the balance due to plans by the Trump administration to merge it with the U.S. Department of State. This move would significantly reduce USAID's funding and workforce, despite its critical role in administering humanitarian aid programs globally. USAID was established in the 1960s to provide aid to countries in need, and it has been instrumental in supporting global health initiatives, food security, and disaster relief efforts. The agency employs around 10,000 people, with two-thirds working overseas, and has bases in over 60 countries. The Trump administration's plan to overhaul USAID is reportedly driven by a desire to reduce overseas spending and align it with the America First approach. Critics argue that this move would have far-reaching consequences, including disruptions to aid programs and potential damage to U.S. national security interests. Trump has long been a critic of overseas spending, stating it does not represent value for money for American taxpayers. He has singled out USAID for particularly strong criticism, describing senior officials there as radical lunatics. Abolishing the agency might enjoy popular support, as opinion polls have long suggested American voters favor slashing foreign aid spending. According to the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, polling data going back to the 1970s has indicated broad support for cuts. One of Trump's first actions after returning to office was signing an executive order pausing almost all international spending for 90 days, while a review could be carried out. It's worth noting that USAID's budget constitutes more than half of the U.S. government's international aid spending, which totaled $68 billion in 2023. The agency's activities have a huge impact on global health, food security, and economic development. The proposed merger with the State Department has raised concerns about the potential loss of expertise and autonomy within the USAID. While the Trump administration may argue that this move is necessary to streamline operations and reduce costs, others see it as a threat to the agency's independence and effectiveness. Tensions between the White House and the USAID escalated over the weekend when officials working for Elon Musk, who Trump has tasked with identifying spending costs in the federal budget, were reportedly denied access to secure financial data at USAID headquarters. Two senior security officials there were placed on leave in the aftermath, according to reports. On Monday, Musk, speaking in a public conversation on X, the social media platform he owns, said, "With regards to the USAID stuff, I went over it with the president in detail, and he agreed that we should shut it down." USAID's website went offline, and employees were told to stay at home on Monday. Later that day, Secretary of State Marco Rubio accused USAID's leadership of insubordination and said he was now its acting head. He added that a lot of functions carried out by the agency would continue, but spending has to be in alignment with the national interest. Can Donald Trump shut USAID down? While it is clear that the White House wields a major influence over USAID, that power is theoretically limited. USAID came into being after Congress passed the Foreign Assistance Act in 1961. That law mandated a government agency be set up and tasked with administering overseas spending. Shortly after, then President John F. Kennedy set up USAID using an executive order. Another law was passed in 1998, confirming USAID's status as an executive agency in its own right. In short, that means Trump cannot simply abolish USAID by signing an executive order. Any attempts to do so would likely face strong challenges in the courts and Congress. Closing USAID altogether would likely require an act of Congress where Trump's Republican Party holds slim majorities in both houses. One option reportedly being considered by the Trump administration is making USAID a branch of the State Department rather than an independent agency. That type of arrangement would not be unprecedented. In 2020, then UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson merged the Department for International Development with the Foreign Office. Ministers said at the time that it would ensure international spending supported the government's wider foreign policy goals. Critics warned it would reduce expertise in the aid sector and damage the UK's overseas standing and influence. Given the disproportionate amount of funding from the US, any changes to how that money is spent will undoubtedly be felt globally. In Africa, for instance, countries like Nigeria that receive aid from USAID could be greatly affected if the agency is scrapped or undergoes major changes as planned. USAID provides critical funding and support for various development programs in Nigeria, including health programs such as HIV and AIDS, malaria and tuberculosis. Food security, education, and economic development initiatives are also impacted. If USAID is scrapped, these programs could be severely impacted, leading to funding gaps. Many NGOs and local organizations in Nigeria that rely on USAID funding to implement their programs may struggle to continue their work. This could lead to program disruptions and subsequently job losses. Some of the NGOs that could be affected in Nigeria include Action Aid Nigeria, Oxfam Nigeria, Save the Children Nigeria, Care Nigeria, Nigerian Red Cross Society. These organizations often work in partnership with USAID to implement development programs in Nigeria. As it is at the moment, the future of the USAID hangs in the balance. What next depends on the Trump administration.